with liberty and justice for all. Stable.
I want to do just a few quick comments and stuff, and then we're going to talk about, we've got one of our partners to present there. We have recognition we want to do for our mayor, as Stuart, and Becky Brenner, and also Mayor Mass and the Commissioner, Stuart. Thank you very much for hosting us. And are there other commissioners or folks here, elected officials? We do have also with us a governing board member, Jackie Thurl. She'll be giving us updates on the district and on the district activities. The cell phone does remind me that we want to not only silence your cell phones, but if you could put them on airport mode. The reason is that we have airport mode allows that to not signal go around when we've got everybody in a room with a lot of signal. There's a lot of electronic noise going around, and unfortunately, it really is detrimental to some people's health. So, if we could put it on airplane mode, I know it's a little challenge, but we can do that. We do have Commissioner Sarah Hurd, who just came in the room. And we have, we didn't have a meeting last month. It was the 29th of August, though. We usually take a little summer break there because everybody's kind of gone out of town on vacation or stuff. But thanks to the city of Stuart and the mayor for putting together a barbecue. It was right at the time, though, of everybody's preparation for Hurricane Dorian. Unfortunately, but it went off, right?
Yes, it did. It was wonderful.
Had some good people. Thank you very much. That's good. That's doing it better. Thank you very much. But again, that was a great step in for that and helping with that. I hope people got through Hurricane Dorian okay. We had sustained winds about 38 miles an hour, gusting 57 out there on the island. But fortunately, very, very fortunately, this storm did not go any more about 10 miles more east to the west. It would have been very devastating for our coast. And as you know, it sat over the Bahamas for more than 40 hours and just really devastated that community. Thanks to many, many people, even some in the room, have stepped up to get relief efforts over there to the Bahamas. That's very gratifying to see those things happening because there are families even here that are related to these families over there. And I think that was a really great step up. And it just warns us that whatever we need to do to prepare for these storms, we usually have adequate warning, but you always need to be prepared. We just passed September 10th, which is the peak of the hurricane season. Hopefully there are a few storms still out there, and you don't know what Karen might do to swing around and come at us, but those things do happen. I saw in the paper we're talking about Francis and Jean this time of year too, a couple years back, so we all remember 2004. Let's begin by introducing our members too. So if I could have the Rivers Coalition members stand up and organization representatives stand up, and we'll come down the row and introduce ourselves. We'll start over here at, go ahead.
Jim Harder, Stuart Flatwater. Dan Merritt, C.K. Barber.
Kenny Hinkle, Rivers Warriors.
Gail Ryan, Marty Bond, Indian River Keeper Board.
Florida Sports, or Blair Wickstrom, Florida Sportsman. Alan Herskowitz, Selfie Point POA. Jim Steele, Venture Harbor.
Alex Gillen, Friends of the Everglades.
Carol Ann Leonard, Martin County, Democratic Environmental Caucus.
Welcome.
Sherry Anchor, Conservation Alliance, St. Lucie County.
Dennis Phelan, the 2780 Paddlers.
Jackie Transinger, Martin County Conservation Alliance.
Linda Rand, American Association of University Women. Diane Goldberg, St. Lucie Audubon.
Joanne Swan, St. Lucie Sailing Club.
Great.
Bob Boysenay, Coconut Point Yacht Club.
Bobby and Walter Deemer, the Martin County League of Women Voters.
George McLean, Guardians of Martin County.
Hi, George.
Annie Potts, Treasure Coast Rowing Club.
Nick Mader, Dolphin Ecology Project and River Kids.
Paul Gray, Audubon, Florida.
Hi, Dave Derenbacher, Martin County Realtors of the Treasure Coast.
Welcome.
George Jones, Orca.
Charles Grandy, President's Council of Hutchinson Island.
Mark Perry, Florida Oceanographic. Great. Welcome. the agenda to go over, but first I wanted to, partners in preserving our river, we give these kind of recognitions and certificates. Is James here? Is Jim here?
James Immisberger? I'll make sure he gets that.
Why don't you tell us
Okay.
a bit about this recognition?
Well, this gentleman, who I didn't know, has been giving $100 a month for years through PayPal. So I contacted him. I said, please come so we can recognize you. And he said he and his wife would be here, but they might be running a little late. But every month, like clockwork, $100.
So, without ado, I'd like to get into our presentation. I was able to get our special guest here, Lisa Interlandy from the Everglades Law Center. I've known Lisa for many, many years, and I appreciate her sending that bio. She told me that picture was not a relevant recent picture, but we all look a little younger in older pictures. So anyway, Lisa is an outstanding environmental representative because she's been at the Everglades Law Center and Everglades Coalition. She's on the board. She's really engaged in a lot of things having to do with Everglades, but particularly in legal aspects. So I thought it appropriate she should address this topic.
Thank you.
Excuse me, can anyone help me get a full screen on that? I can't seem to find the little arrows that make it a full screen. You can? Oh. Yeah, that's a pointer and a fast forward. See, I can't find it.
I don't do Windows, Barbara, I'd help you.
Well, thank you, Kenny. Isn't that strange? Oh, hallelujah, thank you.
Try that.
Try that one.
Okay, is that good? Okay, thanks everyone. I'm Lisa Interlandy. I'm the Executive Director of the Everglades Law Center. I have been with the Everglades Law Center for, a very long time. Next year will be my 20th year with Everglades Law Center. Everglades Law Center is a little bit about us, our organization, because maybe some folks have not heard of us. We are a not-for-profit law firm. We represent environmental groups. We represent individuals. We represent people that are fighting for the public interest in environmental and land use matters. When special interests go before government entities, they have attorneys. And it's important for the public interest to also be represented by legal counsel, because a lot of the issues that we're dealing with are legally complex and technically complex as well. So we try to provide that legal counsel to environmental groups and individuals who are fighting to kind of protect our Everglades and our local environment. I'm located in North Palm Beach. That's where I grew up. I've lived here my whole life, except for when I was in college and law school. So we advocate, we use advocacy, we use negotiation, and if necessary, we use litigation to protect and restore South Florida. We've been involved in a number, we were founded in 1995. We've been involved in a number of important precedent-setting victories for our environment. We worked to prevent 20,000 acres of mining within the Everglades agricultural area about a decade ago. We were successful in the relocation of the Scripps Research Institute, which Palm Beach County was seeking to site on an extremely rural, remote parcel of land in the western Palm Beach County adjacent to the Everglades. That project is now relocated to an in-town location right east of I-95 up in Jupiter, where it is thriving. And we also have been involved in multiple challenges to developments in violation of local plans. Like I said earlier, we've worked with many environmental groups, including, as Mark said, the Everglades Coalition groups and others working for Everglades restoration. So this is what I was brought here to talk about. I'm going to try to make it interesting, but this is just kind of another one of those boring lawsuits. So I'm going to do my best to liven it up, but I'm not sure.
There's nothing boring about it.
Hey, you know what? It hasn't actually progressed that far, so there's not a whole lot to talk about it, but I will do my best. So it's the United States Sugar Corporation versus Lieutenant General Todd Semonite, Colonel Andrew Kelly, and the Army Corps of Engineers. This suit was filed on August 1st in the Federal District Court, Southern District of Florida. Judge Rodney Smith, who I know nothing about. Here's the case number in case anyone is interested and would like to look it up and get more information themselves. At this point, the case has not really progressed past this initial filing. U.S. Sugar is still working to perfect its service of process, so it just has nothing else has happened in the case. So just a little bit of about what was happening before this lawsuit was filed. The Corps in late 2018 decided to use what they call additional operational flexibility within the LOR's 2008 regulation schedule to make water releases to lower the lake. Most people probably are aware LOR's 2008 is the regulation schedule that governs how the lake is operated by the Corps. It uses decision trees and other tools to help guide them make decisions. And just from an environmental perspective, obviously we all know the lake had had an extensive period of high water, particularly following Hurricane Irma. The water levels got extremely high, extremely turbid. There were repeated harmful algae blooms within the lake itself, and significantly decreased vegetation within the lake. So just from an environmental perspective, the lake was in very poor condition. Likewise, the estuaries had experienced multiple years of high-level regulatory releases from the lake. This caused extensive harmful algae bloom conditions within the St. Lucie and the Caloosahatchee estuaries. Do I need to talk about all the damage that caused? I don't think so. I think you guys are well aware of that. But suffice it to say that we were in pretty bad shape. And so, the Corps, to their benefit, they did recognize this. And I think that there was a lot of public pressure put on them by this community, by the West Coast, by some of our elected representatives to do something different. The way that the system had been operated was not working for the majority of people in the state of Florida. And, the Corps, to their benefit, they recognized this. And so they sought to draw down the lake to benefit the lake's ecology itself and to benefit the estuaries, prevent the discharge of water to the estuaries that contain the harmful algae blooms, and try to prevent what had happened for the last several summers to our coastal estuaries. So that's kind of where we were in 2018. So this is, all right, so I actually pulled this out of there. This is one of the attachments to the lawsuit. This kind of shows where, this is what they used as part of the LOR's 2008. It shows the high lake management ban. This is when you guys are getting releases right here. Like anything up in this level, you guys absolutely. Probably also even lower. I don't know the exact.
15.
Yeah, so you could absolutely be getting releases probably anywhere above the blue band, I would imagine, certainly. So here's where we were back in November 2008. You can see the lake wasn't particularly high, so that's why it was kind of a pretty important decision by the Corps to go ahead and take this action. And, they started releasing water primarily. I think that they used, I'm not entirely sure about when the Corps started making the releases or how they did it, but my understanding is that they started trying to send more water south through the Everglades towards the end of 2018. That is normally a time when the Corps might be holding water in the lake because it's the beginning of the dry season. And so they get a lot of pressure from water users to keep that water in the lake so that they will have it to use more towards the end of the dry season. If the water is sent out of the lake at the beginning of the dry season, if it doesn't rain, there's certainly a possibility that there may not be enough to meet every single demand that we have put on the lake for water supply purposes. So you can see here, and then in February, the Corps took some specific action to go even further and start making some of the releases to preemptively release water to the coasts so that they hopefully would not have to do that during the peak of the summer months when historically we have experienced increased algae blooms. So you can see the water levels really didn't go into the water shortage line. That is this bottom line, this bottom green line right here. It really followed the beneficial use zone all the way through the time that the Corps was making releases. Through February, March, and April is when the Corps was making releases, I believe, to the St. Lucie River, and then maybe a little bit of an extended time beyond that over to the Caloosahatchee. And this is naturally the time, as you can see by looking at this line, this is naturally the time the lake is going to follow the line and kind of just get lower because we're getting into the edge of the dry season. So here we go. No water shortage impacts at all until like 2 days at the end of July and a couple days at the end of August. And boom, that's when they file their lawsuit right here. Everglades or to estuary, to Waxahachie estuary and benefited. And then this one is for the conservation areas, send water south. And this is kind of how they make their decisions. And it goes all the way up from no releases at the very bottom, and then up to, up to maximum practical depending on the conditions. And so this is how they do it for the estuaries. A little bit more complicated, but it's basically the same thing. Very low flows up to very high flows depending on where the lake levels are, what the climate forecast looks like, what the tributaries look like, etc. So this is what governs kind of the Corps' decision-making process in making these releases. All right, so let's look at what Sugar's main claims are in this lawsuit here. Their first, basically, it's not an overly complicated suit in terms of its allegations, but what it basically says is the Corps failed to adequately analyze the effects of its decision to lower the lake. The National Environmental Policy Act requires federal agencies to do an analysis to analyze the potential impacts of the actions that they take. In this case, they claim that the Corps should have, under the National Environmental Policy Act, should have prepared a new or supplemental environmental impact statement. A lot of their arguments are based on the fact that the analysis for LORS 2008 was completed in 2007. It's more than 10 years old. LORS was supposed to be a temporary schedule. It was supposed to last just a handful of years until the Hoover Dike was rehabilitated. Obviously, as we all know, that's taken a lot longer than they anticipated at that time. And so the schedule has remained in place. And I think that the sugar companies don't really love, it seems like to me that they don't particularly love the LORS 2008 schedule. It lowered the lake significantly over the previous schedule and somewhat reduced the water supply that was available for Lake Okeechobee users compared to the previous schedule. So, and now, here the Corps is now taking action that's going to lower the lake even beyond that. So you can kind of see why they are getting a little bit fired up over this. So that, so then what they say is that, releasing water and lowering the lake without doing this additional analysis, without preparing an environmental impact statement, violated the National Environmental Policy Act. So here they go. Sugar claims that the releases, these were the releases that they made to the estuaries to lower the lake for the lake's benefit and for the benefit of the estuaries, as well as the releases that they made to send the water south, which does benefit the Everglades, and benefits the estuaries and not having to take that water. That these releases significantly and adversely affected the quality of the human environment. That's the language from NEPA, but here's what they say. Public health and safety, navigation, hurricane evacuation routes, and safety threats to boaters getting stranded in a low lake. I don't know. It wasn't, I don't know. I don't know how hurricane evacuation routes are really impacted by this, but maybe if you are evacuating by boat through Okeechobee, I can see that. I can see it. Okay, threat of peat fires and saltwater intrusion. I mean, certainly if a serious drought occurred, I guess that's a potential. Highly controversial effects, including wasting water, as evidenced by public comments in opposition to lower lake levels. Yes, there were some comments in opposition to lower lake levels, I think probably 2%, I'm just guessing, compared to all the comments that were received to please do something different. You're killing our entire state by how they're managing the lake. So I think that the majority of comments were really to change how they had been. Unknown risks arising from not knowing how the lake will fall, that's just not even anything. Setting a harmful precedent of operating outside of the regulation schedule for months at a time. Again, I'm not sure that is something that is actionable under NEPA, but effects on cultural and historic resources. I don't know how releasing water from Lake Okeechobee would affect cultural
understand the tree islands and all that.
No, like the grades.
Oh, the grades.
It is, but I don't know how that's impacted by releasing water from
I don't
the
know
lake.
that, but just to know what cultural.
Right, cultural, right, historic and cultural resources are oftentimes tribal lands, tribal resources, but I'm not getting the connection between, those resources and just taking some action to lower the lake for the benefit of the lake and the estuaries. Impacts on endangered species, the Everglades snail type, potential state law and FL violations if the lake fell below 11 feet for more than 80 days. And they impermissibly created and implemented a new and rogue lake regulation schedule without preparing a new environmental impact statement. So that's,
I kinda like the last terminology.
yeah.
I like the road.
Yeah, they went rogue. The board went rogue for the benefit of the environment, okay? It's a first for everything here. Okay, under the Administrative Procedures Act, that's an additional, that's one of their claims is that they violated the Administrative Procedures Act by, acting arbitrarily and capriciously. Their action was an abuse of discretion, otherwise not in accordance with law. These are the terms of the Administrative Procedures Act. This is what, the law requires, our government is not supposed to act arbitrarily. Our government is not supposed to, abuse its discretion. And, in this case, that is what U.S. Sugar is claiming that the Corps' deviation, it's not even a deviation, but the lowering of the lake within the regulation schedule, did. And then NEPA, just for folks who may not know, NEPA is a procedural statute. It does not govern or dictate any specific outcome. It requires federal agencies, like I said, to kind of analyze all of the impacts of its actions. They have to, all environmental, social, and economic effects have to be evaluated as part of its process. And so what did the Corps do here? So like, did they just go rogue? Did they just act completely outside of the law? I wanted to talk a little bit about what the Corps actually did as part of their, to justify their decision. They issued two, what they call memoranda for the record, and they were called the Lake Okeechobee Regulation Schedule, Additional Operational Flexibility, Justification, and National Environmental Policy Act Coverage Determination. Whew. And they issued two of these. One in October of 2018, prior to, I believe, their action was to try to send additional water south. And then this one here that I just kind of excerpted a bit, in February of 2019. So what these really were, they were, oh, here's what they are. But what they basically were kind of detailed memorandums that looked at and analyzed what the problems were, the reasons that the Corps was seeking to take the action that it did, and also why they concluded that the action that they were taking fell within their existing authority under the LOR's 2008 regulation schedule. So it was a pretty lengthy analysis. I was only able to find the 2019 memorandum online, but from what I could tell from reviewing that, I thought they did a relatively thorough analysis. And their conclusion was that they were justified in making these releases under the existing schedule, that a deviation or additional NEPA analysis was not required. So in the October memorandum, they looked at continuing releases until the cumulative releases that they had made were no more than 164,600 acre feet over the normal 2008 regulation schedule Part D. So that means that they're looking at not releasing more than 164,000 acre feet over the normal releases that would have been made. I suppose if they did that, it's not a tremendous amount, but I suppose if they did that, and
What's that in gallons?
I don't know what that is in gallons. I think that's just less than half of what they, the amount that they actually lowered the lake as far as deviation.
It's about 4.5 inches off the lake.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Yeah, so that's about 4.5 inches off the lake, and that, I believe that started, at least the Corps plan to start that in October. And then, and probably Paul or Mark or someone who's got a lot better details on how the lake is actually managed. If we have any questions, maybe jump in and concluded that they would continue to make releases, but they would not continue beyond the point of the water shortage ban. So they weren't gonna drive the lake, they weren't going to drive us into an immediate drought. You know, certainly to, you know, US Sugar's benefit, it's always possible that, you know, if an H54 releases water this year, you might not have a wet rainy season, you might have a particularly dry season, you might not get those big storms, you might end up the next year in a drought circumstance. So, you know, it's every year it's a roll of the dice, you know, with water management. You just never know, and climate forecasts are only so accurate as we know. So, you know, in this case, they weren't planning on driving the lake all the way into the water shortage ban, although, you know, this is at the very beginning of the rainy season. So you absolutely expect that even as the lake is being brought lower, that rains are gonna come somewhat, just naturally, and raise it. How much? That, it's always determined by the weather and not something that you can absolutely predict.
Lisa, just a clarification,
Yeah.
the February memorandum on the slide before this one,
Yep.
up in the upper right, it says 2009, that meant to be 2019, right?
Oh, yes, sorry, 2019, sorry, thank you for noticing my typo there.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes, it is 2019,
So you
yes.
did one in October
Yep,
18
right.
and then February
And, yep,
20.
right, that's right. Two right here, just in this past year.
And that's 53.6 billion gallons.
Thank you, Mark.
A fair amount of water, but I believe that in total, at least according to the US Sugar lawsuit, it was about 1 foot off the lake. No?
No,
Oh.
it's only 4 inches. 4 inches.
4 inches total for both of them, Paul? Well, they said it was 400,000 acre feet is what, in total, what was released. US Sugar claims 400,000 acre feet was what was released as a part of this
Some of that
additional
went to the-
operational flexibility.
Yeah, some of that went to the Caloosahatchee to help maintain their salinity, so those are beneficial, regular releases.
Beneficial.
Okay, right. So, okay, so here is where we are. I pulled this yesterday, I believe. So here's where we are. You can see, oh, where did I go? Oh, wait, hold on, let's go back. Okay, here we go. So, you can see that here's where we dipped into the water shortage ban. That's what this bottom line is. Here's where we dipped into that water shortage ban. Here's where US Sugar filed their lawsuit. And guess what happened? Immediately the lake starts skyrocketing up. And so you can imagine that and you can see how close we are. This is the average lake elevation. And so you can see if the lake was higher, if those releases hadn't been made, even this was a really pretty good year for water management. It wasn't a particularly high rainfall year. We didn't have those tremendous storms that drove the lake up by many, many feet. You know, it is certainly coming up quickly over these last 2 months, or month or so, but, you can imagine that if the lake was a foot higher, we might all be a little bit more worried that there would be the potential for some, regulatory releases to the estuaries. So, okay, so here's what US Sugar requested as part of their relief. You know, most interesting to me is that they didn't ask for the one thing that would actually, in their opinion, correct the harm that had been done. They did not ask that additional analysis be conducted under NEPA. That's generally what you would request, because that's what is necessary, because they considered it to be a failure of NEPA, and the cure for that is to do more analysis. But they didn't ask for that. They asked the court to declare that the Corps violated NEPA, to declare that the Corps action was arbitrary and capricious in violation of the APA, the Administrative Procedures Act. They asked the court to invalidate the Corps' justification documents, the October and February memorandums for the record. And they asked the court to enjoin the Corps from implementing operational flexibility to lower Lake Okeechobee below the water levels that were established in the 2008 regulation schedule. So that is what the relief requested. So what if US Sugar prevails? What if they were to prevail in this action? The Corps would be precluded from using operational flexibility of LORS 2008 to lower the lake until they had completed the necessary NEPA analysis. So it's not that they would be forever barred from lowering the lake. It's not that they would never be able to consider the lake's ecology or the ecology of the estuaries in their decision-making. It's not. At most, it's a failure of process, failure to do the analysis, and so the cure for that is to do that additional analysis. So that's it. The Corps, if in fact that happened, or whether it happened or not, the Corps, and you'll see in a minute that they are, but the Corps could choose to do additional analysis under NEPA to justify their actions to release water to lower the lake for the lake's ecology, for the estuary's ecology, for the healthy Everglades, for the Scotchy River, etc. So here's another case, actually. There is another case. It's not related, although U.S. Sugar did say when their press release, when they sued, they said, oh, well, we are joining the Center for Biological Diversity in their challenge. And, you know, we rarely join the environmentalists. If the Corps goes rogue, we will. So, it's actually, the cases are not the same at all. But this case is in the Southern District of Florida. It is for a different judge, Judge Don Middlebrooks, who we have had a case before and was very good. This one is actually currently set for jury trial in February of 2020. And what this one is, this one has more to do with the Corps' failure to take action to protect endangered and listed, threatened and listed species. So this, really what they're saying here is that the Corps', the biological opinion that the Fish and Wildlife Service did for Lake Okeechobee and Loors, as well as the Corps' own analysis, is outdated. There is new information available about the impacts of harmful algal blooms on ecology, and that information should be considered in the Corps' decision-making. So they are trying to get the Corps to take action that would protect endangered species. Chances are that action that they are seeking is not going to benefit U.S. Sugar. So they're really not in any way joined to these two very separate and different lawsuits. They both have to do with lake management, and you know they both do make some of the same arguments about the fact that the analysis that was done under the National Environmental Policy Act to justify the decisions is somewhat old. It was completed in 2007.